Welcome, everybody, to a Voice of the Wilderness podcast. I got my brother Justin with me.
What's up, guys?
So, we've been bringing different men of God up in here, and we've been talking about our faith. And, man, I love to get the different perspective, because I think one of the things that we run into in American Christianity is this concept of I'm a Christian, but I don't live like a Christian.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you kind of see a little bit of that. I do.
All the time.
And so for me, it's like I love to bring guys in here that are what I consider to be on fire, that really live it. It's not just hey, I'm a Christian, I've waved the white flag, Christian flag, but they really actually walk it out.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you mentioned coming on, I was like, you know what, this would be good, because not only are you younger,
mm-hmm.
which is not easy. How old are you now?
I'm 20.
Oh,
yeah.
You're just a baby, man.
Yeah.
So, but I wanted people to see that it's not just old guys with gray beards that can do this, man. You know what I'm saying? And it's not easy, man. Walking with the Lord is a challenge every day.
Oh, yes, sir.
It's something that you really got to work at. And, so I wanted to bring you in. So now tell everybody who you are and kind of how you wound up in Lake City and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, man. Well, first and foremost, appreciate you blessing me and letting me be on the show. I love it. Watch it every time you drop something. So, but my name's Justin Belk. I'm originally from Miami, born and raised down there. Came up here probably, I want to say, elementary school, middle school. My grandma had gotten sick. So the culture shock coming to Lake City was nuts. And I wound up in Lake City. Never in a million years I thought I'd be up in a place like this. But other than that, man, Lake City now, I left after I graduated, and then I came back a year later.
Now, when did you graduate?
2018, yeah. And after I graduated, it was just like, I don't want to come back. I was already saved and whatnot, and I came back a year later, and I was like, wow, God really had a plan for me to be back at City Church with Pastor Travis, and that's how I met Taylor. So Dylan too, and then relationships with you and so many other people, and just the growth that happened when I came back from Miami was amazing, and God really moved in my life tremendously.
So you guys, City Church used to meet in the movie theater in Lake City.
Yeah,
and they had a building when they were Grace City.
Yeah.
But you moved to the movie theater, then you guys have got your own building now. But there was one time when you guys were in the movie theater,
mm-hmm. and I came to church one day, and I kind of drag around some of these kids with me and these football players and different guys. Love it.
I'll be dragging them around. People always talk about being drugged to church.
Yeah.
So I try to make a habit of doing that. But I came up, and I don't remember who it was, but one of the guys that was with me knew you, and I don't know how you guys knew each other, and I didn't really know you at the time.
Mm-hmm.
I'm still getting to know you, but he looked at you and he went, "Oh my gosh, man!" I mean, it was like he was in shock that you were at church and you were serving, and that you were a door greeter, and it was just like he couldn't believe. And listen, I've been through that, man.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I've been through that.
Yeah.
There was times when I would go in to preach at churches, especially locally,
mm-hmm.
and I'd be sitting there, in the Baptist church, because I was licensed by the Baptist church, and I'd be sitting there on the chair, by the pulpit, and I'd look in the crowd, and people would come in that had known me my whole life,
mm-hmm.
and didn't know what God had done in my heart. And I would look at them, and they would be, you could see they were almost angry that I was sitting, and they thought,
in shock, like,
And so I'd have to actually scurry out into the
mm-hmm.
audience, and I'd sit down with them. I go, let me kind of give you a little rundown of what has happened, because God so radically changed me. My mom is 85.
Mm-hmm.
I got born again 11 years ago, so my mom was in her mid-70s.
Okay.
And she always made a statement to me. She would always say, I've never seen anybody really change.
Mm-hmm.
People have pretty much stayed consistent all their life. But she said she told me, this is what she told me after I got born again in 2008. She's like, I've never seen anybody change like this. And as a matter of fact, if you want to, I'll pay for you to go see a psychiatrist.
Man, that's one thing. My favorite thing, Pastor Travis always tells me, and he even preached on it on Wednesday. You can never argue with a changed life.
No.
And that I get that all the time. Getting people like, "Yo, Justin's in church," and I'm like, "Yeah," because man, I used to party it up, man, do drugs, all of the above, and I'm not even quite sure if a lot of people know I'm even still in like church or whatnot. I don't even know if people were in Miami. It was just after I fell off the scene or whatever. Didn't really talk to nobody much, and then if I run into people, I'll just this is what happened. I met Jesus.
Well, listen, man. So there's nothing more powerful than a testimony.
That's right.
Jesus talks about that, and Paul talks about that in the Word, and let your testimony speak. So this is what I want. I want to know, because I don't even know your testimony. Yeah. So I want to know, how did Jesus get a hold of Justin's heart? I need to hear that story,
dude. I haven't actually told my testimony in a while, just bits and pieces, but you can get the real deal story. So when I moved up from Miami, I went to Fort White High School for a while. I played basketball, love basketball. That's my favorite sport. And right around the time there was stuff going on in my life, I only lived with a single mom, didn't have a dad. So I grew up pretty rough, and basically, I was going to Fort White, and then I would play basketball and always around a good crowd. And I think it was after my sophomore season, I was like totally lost the passion for it, and I started hanging out around with the wrong people. Started smoking weed, doing all sorts of drugs.
Now, I want to stop you just there for 1 second, because I love to teach on this, and I want to take the time. People listen to this, but
Definitely.
I want to take the time. When I first started doing drugs, my brother was actually in prison when I was in junior high school.
Yeah.
And he was in prison because he was involved in a drug deal that went wrong, and he got put in jail for it. That was one of my brothers. My other one was kind of in and out of jail too because of similar stuff.
Yeah.
And so for me, it was like I had friends that did drugs, and I was like, nah, I'm not going to do that, because it was like that whole thing with my brother going to jail, and he was like my dad. My dad passed when I was 2. And so I stayed away from it, but I would drink. I would drink. And so I had a funnel, and so as my boys got high, I would just funnel more beer.
Yeah.
But what I want to talk about is the gateway to the heavier drugs, because people don't understand, a lot of people don't think about the fact that they think drinking is such an innocent activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's the gateway. I tell people all the time that if you desensitize yourself by drinking and possibly getting intoxicated, then you desensitize yourself to other drugs and other things that people are doing. So, kind of give me a little bit of a rundown about how you kind of, what was the gateway to you getting involved with drugs?
Honestly, dude, it was super innocent at first, because I always told myself, and I always told my family, I'm never gonna, because I knew my dad did drugs, and like I was around it in Miami, so I knew about it, and I was like, I'm gonna go to college and play basketball. I didn't want to ever be around it. And I just remember going to a friend's house, and his older sisters and whatnot were doing it, and it was super innocent, and I was like, okay, let me try it. And like the gateway to using, I was smoking weed, so that I always heard was a gateway drug, and I was like, nah, never. It's just you're smoking, that's it. And I used to go to SWAT, students working against tobacco and stuff like that. I used to go there to get out of class and eat Taco Bell in high school. So, but I always heard it, and I was like, no, there's no way. And so it started off just me smoking weed, and I was like, I'll never do anything crazy. I know better than that. And I always told myself I'll never drink. But my papa always tells me alcohol runs in the family. It's a gene. And I had all these people in my ear telling me, don't do that stuff, don't do that stuff. And I ended up trying it, and I was like, oh, this is not that bad. And later down the road, junior and senior year, or actually just junior year, I started doing more. smoking weed, going to more parties, and then all these other opportunities were in front of me, and I was like, weed wasn't that bad. What about coke? Oh, what about pills? And that's where it really, the mindset I had about weed when I first started doing it, it's not that bad. It's not going to take me anywhere else. And it did. And I definitely believe that was a lie from the enemy at the time. And that's where I found myself, and it went down a whole rabbit hole from there.
Yeah. So I read in the Bible one time where it says in Genesis where God created the herbs, which, marijuana is an herb.
Yeah.
And he created it for, eating and, medicinal.
Yeah.
And so, but I'll tell you how I stopped getting high when I first got born again. And I'll tell this story. And so, and there's a friend of mine, I used to go canoeing all the time. And I want you to finish your testimony, but I used to go canoeing all the time with a group of guys, like 3 guys. And, I've always felt like I was really connected to the land, like I've got some Indian blood in me and all that kind of stuff. And so I had built this peace pipe out of a deer antler and this long piece of wood, and I had feathers hanging off of it, and the actual bowl was a deer antler, and so I had a little case for it. I'd made a little leather case to carry it in. I mean, I was elaborate with it.
It don't get more Lake City than that, right there.
So I remember I'd gotten saved, and I didn't usually get high unless I was in that environment where I was on the river or something like that. And so I'm sitting there, and we had bought a sack, and it was really like a light green color. It was kind of odd how light green it was, and so I packed the bowl, and I was sitting in the canoe, and my friend was sitting facing me like you are, like his canoe was facing the other way. And so we were holding the boat, and me and him would plan on, just hitting the peace pipe. And so I go to light it, and I remember looking at that light green weed in that bowl, and I hit that lighter, and when I did, because I had been actually witnessing to my friend, and I lit that lighter, and he just looks over and he says, "Why you smoking that devil's lettuce, preacher boy?" And I was like, "Whoa, what?" I said, "What? Whoa, what'd you say?" He said, "Why you smoking the devil's lettuce, preacher boy?" And I was like, "Why did you call it the devil's lettuce? I've never heard that. In my whole life, I had never heard that."
Really?
And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "I don't know. That's just what came to me." And I was like, and I took that pipe and I handed it to him, and I said, "I'll never touch it again." And he's like, "What?"
Wow.
And I said, "I've been praying and asking God if this is something I need to take out of my life."
Wow.
And he's like, "Yeah." And I said, "And you called it the devil's lettuce. You actually put a term in it that I can relate to my prayers to God." And so I handed him that pipe, and I've never taken a toke again.
Confirmation right there, dude. My, that is nuts. I've heard, wow. The first time I heard devil's lettuce is like when I moved up here. But down there, you just call it bud or whatnot. Dude, that's confirmation.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
But people don't listen to God's voice that closely, man, because to me, it was as clear as glass in a window, man. I mean, it was like I'd been praying, I'd been asking God to reveal it to me, and I started learning. That was in the early part of my walk. And I started learning God will use nearly anybody to speak to you.
Dude.
I mean, it don't matter where they're at. It don't matter if they're a believer. God will use people to speak to you, and I was just like blown away with it. It was one of the first times I clearly saw God like talking to me.
Yes, I've had so many experiences. When I first started walking with Jesus, and I'll tell you how I started going to church. Yeah. So when I started going to church, I was in a relationship at the time, and I was smoking weed. This is when my junior year, so I was already at CHS. I transferred to CHS. So I started hanging out with a worse crowd. Bigger friend group, more parties. At the time, I did coke and pills and all that, and I had OD'd once on pills, and it was getting really bad. And I've always heard about church. Down in Miami, my grandmother went to Lutheran church, and my mom when they were little and stuff. But it was like, man, church is weird. I don't want to do this. And I'd always go, we'd be one of those families to go, maybe once on Easter. or
You were cheesters.
yeah, stuff like that, man. Not even on Christmas, just Easter, maybe. And it was up. It depended if we got up early enough. But I was in this relationship at the time, and the girl ended up bringing me to church, and it was City Church when we were at the movie theater. And I remember exactly walking in there the first day. It was that first Sunday, and it was funny because I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna smoke before I get to church," and she was like, "Don't do that,
Man, you smoke pot before you watch Travis preach. It might blow you away.
dude." Fall out to seat, man.
I mean, that joker's up there dancing and all kind of stuff, man.
Be
I don't
cracking
know.
up.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Definitely that was like a big thing. But like when I was first starting to go to church, like, oh, never smoke weed before you go to church. I always heard that. But I remember the first day, it was like, the first day I didn't get saved, but I kept going back after that. But I walked in there the first day, everyone had smiles on their face. And at that time, I was fighting depression. This is after my grandma had passed. So I was in a very dark place. And I was kind of just looking for anything to fill that hole in my heart. And later down the road, I figured out that was that God-shaped hole that only He can fill. And I walked in there, and I remember seeing people's hands raised, and I was like, "What the heck? Where am I at? These people were strange." And I heard Pastor Travis preach for the first time, and God was dropping little things, and it was like one of those moments where something was talking to you, and I didn't know who it was, but I knew, like, I looked back, I'm like, wow, that was God. And when I first went to City Church, it felt like home. And I guess why God called me back there from Miami. So yeah, City Church has been nothing but amazing to me.
So that's been where it began. Dude. And you're still there.
Yeah.
That's really cool, man.
I actually, after I graduated in 2018, I moved down to Miami because I had gotten out of that relationship. It was very toxic. So I had walked away like same day I moved to Miami after I broke up with this girl. And I was like, I'm done. I dropped everything. I want to leave Lake City in the past. And I was like, I got my God. I was praying to God, like, do something, change my life, like, even more. And I moved to Miami, and that's when I actually started learning to, like, minister to people and farther in my walk with God. And little did I know, He had another plan a year later to bring me back up here, and I was like, no way. This isn't God. And I'm back here now, so, yeah.
Yeah, well, if I know Travis like I think I know him because, we're kind of almost, I don't know, it's just that kindred spirit, you know what I mean?
Dude, you guys are like that.
And so if I know Travis like I think I know Travis, he's like me. I've been praying for the spouses of my kids since I've been born again for, 10 years, 11 years. And you're dating his daughter.
Yes.
Which is she's phenomenal.
She is
Taylor,
amazing.
Man. She is.
I do not deserve her. I tell you that, man.
She's amazing. And but I know that Travis and Michelle have been praying for you before you even knew the situation. And not that you and Taylor are married, but I know you guys are committed to your relationship. You're committed to doing it God's way. Mm-hmm. And I tell my girls, this is a little thing I tell my girls all the time. I say, listen, there's an easy way to tell if a guy loves you. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's real simple. Lust is totally different than love.
Definitely.
And the devil tries to convince us that when you have a physical attraction to a human being, that's love. That's not love. Mm-mm. That is lust. That is flesh. That is a fleshly desire. But true love, if you look at the definition according to the scriptures, is when you sacrifice what you want for the betterment of whoever it is that you're dealing with. Mm-hmm. So what I try to tell my girls is it's real simple. If you're dating a guy and he's trying to advance your walk in the Lord and keep you away from impurity, he loves you because he's taking the fleshly desires he has to be intimate with you, and he's pushing that to the side, and he's driving you down the highway of God's plan. Mm-hmm. So that's true love.
Yes.
And so when I watch young people, I try to tell them, sex is like fire. It's like if me and you went camping, which I hope you go camping with me
Dude,
sometime.
I'll love to do that, man.
So it's awesome. So if we're out there and it's cold at night and we build a fire and we put like some rocks around it, it's a great thing, man, because it keeps us warm. It gives us light. We can cook some food on it. You know, it's really, fire's a great thing when you keep it inside the fire ring.
Come on.
But if I pull a stick out of it and I go over into the woods and I light the woods on fire and it doesn't have any parameter,
come on now,
it's going to burn everything around it down.
Yep.
I don't understand why sex is this way. I don't get it. All I know is that's the way it is. So when you take it outside of the context of marriage, or you take it outside of the boundaries of marriage, it becomes very destructive. And I always ask young people this. I'm like, does sex make your life better, or does it make it more complicated?
Dude. Ooh. Dude, before I even was saved, yeah, but I've had sex before marriage, before I was saved and whatnot. And at the end of the day, it was just another attempt to fill that hole. And at the end, I was just like, man, I still feel like crap. I feel so empty at the end of the day. And I'm like, wow, when is this going to change? And yeah, the culture now is like, sex is okay. All these songs kids listen to, what they see on TV, MTV, like, it's absolutely crazy. And now that I'm saved and I'm looking through a spiritual lens and I'm seeing these things, I'm like, wow. And I know I'm young, and I try to tell my boys and my friends all the time, like, man, you're just gonna feel empty. You just said something key, man. I don't want to brush by spiritual lens. Yes.
Because I'm sitting here, you know, we got all this stuff going on.
Yep.
You know, if you watch this later on, we're in the middle of all the recounts in the election in 2020.
Yep.
It's crazy.
Yep.
But all that's going on right now, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, man, I can clearly see the spiritual battle. I can clearly see it. But so many people don't. They think it's about, you know, a candidate or one of the guys or a party. And I'm like, no. This has nothing to do with parties. This has nothing to do with candidates. It manifests itself like that. But there is a battle in the spiritual realm that is just raging.
Dude.
And this is the crazy part about it to me. There's so much hatred for a candidate that the hatred is blinding many, many Christians from the spiritual battle that's going on. And it's just crazy to me. And I'm like, look beyond who's running for office and look at the platforms and look at what they're trying to advance. You know, it went from, hey, let's be okay with people getting married as homosexuals to now, hey, we're going to go into, let anybody go into whatever bathroom they want. And now they're trying to actually, there's people on the internet right now trying to claim that people who want to have sex with children,
yeah, no, I've seen that. That is absolutely
needs to be
horrid.
embraced because it's a choice.
Yeah.
It's a sexual preference. And I'm like,
Get out of your minds.
Yeah, no, listen. If you're listening out there and you think that way, do not mess with my kids.
Dude.
Okay? Don't do that. I'm just telling you.
There's a song that goes, try Jesus, not me, because I still throw hands.
Yeah.
I'm saved, but I'll throw some hands.
I know how to ask for forgiveness. You know what I'm saying?
I can fight you one time, but I'll repent, turn away from that way.
So when you talk about a spiritual lens, when you bring that up, you know, kind of elaborate on that a little bit as far as being such a young guy in a world that's so crazy right now.
Oh, man. Did it take me a long time to finally understand a lot, dude. And I bet you, man, about 3 years ago when I first got saved, I was like, man, I can't even hear the voice of God. I don't know what I can't hear him. But that now that I look back at that now, and even a simple sermon Pastor Travis preaches, or even when you got up there and preached and you put the chains around my ankles, I looked at like that through a spiritual lens, and I'm like, wow, God's using this moment, because I was going through a certain time in my life this couple months ago when you preached that God really used. And the culture now is just definitely like just TikTok. Take TikTok, for example. Yeah. I'm not even going to lie and say I don't use it. I love it. I absolutely love it, but I know my limits. Stuff that I see on there that say a regular high school student would look at, they wouldn't look at it the same way. There's so much stuff and like just crap out there now that if you're not careful, what you're taking in. So it says in the Bible, so a man thinks in his heart, so is he, right?
Right.
What you're feeding yourself with the music, with what you're watching, what you're listening to, anything, it's going to come out through you in a certain way. So say like say if I'm depressed and I listen to, even I use this example all the time. NF, he's a Christian rapper, but he makes very depressing songs. Doesn't cuss or anything, doesn't have any bad words or anything, doesn't talk about crazy stuff. But if I listen to that music too much and for too long and I really start feeling it, I'm going to be depressed at the end of the day. So you look at that through a spiritual lens and like, hey, take a step back, check yourself, get back right. And I'm not saying all that music's bad, but you look at it in a godly way through that spiritual lens, you'll know your limits. So,
yeah. Well, I've listened to some NF stuff. My daughter really likes him, and you're right, man. He is very man, he's so gifted.
Oh God. Yeah, dude.
But you got this thing where. And I tell people all the time, there's two kind of ways that things operate. Mm-hmm. There's people that have a victor mentality, and there's people who have a victim mentality.
Mm-hmm. That's good.
And so what I try to tell people is you can look at it like you can keep your focus on the things that have happened in your life that are bad, or you can choose to understand that God uses even the bad things to help you grow and develop and mature as a person. So. Like when I look back at my dad dying so young and the things that have happened to me in my childhood, I look at it like, hey man, that's part of what built the character in me to get me to where I am. Excuse me. There's when I ran for mayor, you probably don't even know this. I ran for mayor.
No, I didn't. Dude, that's gangster.
So I ran for mayor when I was 33 and I'm 49 now. So it's been a while. But when I had borrowed some golf carts and I was driving around town, and I was meeting everybody and I was knocking on doors and I was serious about it.
Dude, that's so cool.
Yeah, I wasn't saved, but I was serious about it. But I kept meeting all these people that had known my dad. Mm-hmm. I kept meeting his former friends, and they kept talking all these stories about him. And I noticed there was just a common theme. And every person that I've ever talked to about my dad, they didn't just say, "Hey, I knew your daddy was a good dude." They elaborated about how much they respected him and how good of a man he was and all that kind of stuff. So for me, it was like, my dad's legacy as a good person was actually enough to almost make me want to be a good man. Yeah. Even before I got saved.
Definitely.
It was kind of crazy. And so to hear you as a young man I tell people all the time, man, watch what you put in your eyes. Yeah. Watch what you put in your ears. I'm really like on my kids. I'm like, you can't be in the world all the time, man.
Yeah.
You got to have some God. And it's so hard because they look at me like that's just an old gray bearded man that doesn't get our culture. And I'm like, no, listen, man, the world is trying to inundate this generation.
Oh yeah.
And this is what I tell like young guys. Okay. This is for young guys. When I was a young guy, when I was your age or a little bit younger than you, if I wanted to see something that was pornographic, it had to be one of my buddies that had a dad that had a subscription to Playboy. Yeah. And if they did, my gosh, man, they'd rip the centerfold out of the magazine after their dad got done with it, and they'd ride their bike, and we'd all look at the centerfold, woo, Yeah. But I can't imagine having a smartphone in my hand.
Click of a button.
At that age. Man.
Click of a button. And so everything's, you got the access to literally the whole world on your pocket. In your pocket, everywhere you go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
And so this is what I try to tell young guys, okay? So if the enemy can get you addicted to pornography, okay, because it talks about in Scripture, it says that in Isaiah, where it says in Isaiah, it says that Jesus was beaten for, he was stricken for our transgressions, and he was bruised for our iniquities. Yeah. And then Paul, when you read what Paul wrote, Paul said there's two different kinds of sin. One is a sin against a brother or a sister, but one is against yourself. Mm-hmm. And it's so cool, but how that matches up, because a bruise is an inward wound and a stripe is an outward wound. Yeah. And so what I tell young guys is, I said, when you're watching porn, you're not committing sin against other people. You're committing a sin against yourself. So you're inwardly wounding yourself. Yeah. So when you try to have an intimate relationship with a female or with anybody in your life, you're so wounded on the inside that
Yeah.
you can't really love people like you need to love them, and you can't build that relationship like you need to.
I was having a conversation with Steven actually it was actually a couple months ago. Steven's been through my walk. He's the one that baptized me. He's the one that picked me up when I raised my hand at church. That's my guy. So shout out to Steven Knotts, man. I love you, dude.
He's a good guy.
Yeah. Anyway, we were talking about, man, it was maybe a month before the election. Everything was getting turned up, and I was like, oh my gosh. But Steven was like, we just had a simple conversation, and it stuck with me. And he was saying, I can't remember exact context what he read, but he was saying, and this to piggyback off of that, say if you're watching something pornography, or sleeping around or whatnot, each time you're just taking something and you're cutting your heart. And what happens if it heals? It scars up. You do it again, it scars up. At the other time, it starts callousing. Your heart gets hard, and you keep doing that, and it's gonna get to the point where you can't feel it no more. You're just gonna be numb. And I found myself there before I was saved. I just kept boom, boom, just cutting my heart, keep doing the things that was just hardening. I felt so numb, and I couldn't feel anything. I didn't think I was doing anything wrong. And that's I told that to the youth group not too long ago. You guys are just gonna keep doing these things, and it's gonna harden your heart. And at the end of the day, you might not realize this isn't good for me.
I'm gonna tell you one of the things that really when I first got saved, when I got baptized July 1st of 2008 in the Swanee River where I live behind my house. We weren't living there then, but we had the property. And I got baptized there. And the one thing that just immediately supernaturally changed was my conscience. My conscience had been seared. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't care what I did. I didn't care who I did it to. I did not feel guilty about it. But when I got born again, man, I couldn't even, if I walked into your house and I really liked this notepad and I was like, ooh, I like that notepad. I can't take it. I can't even take one of them because my conscience was renewed. It was like I was a baby.
Yeah.
Not a baby, but because you can't tell. But my conscience was back to where it was originally supposed to be. And so I remember thinking after that, I kept saying, I don't want to go back to feeling the way I felt before. I don't want to be calloused and hard like that anymore. And so God completely changed me, man. He really did. He changed me. And I love the fact that you're coming up here, young guy, man, and you're saying a lot of the same things that us old guys like me and Travis say, because you young people out there, man, hey, look, it's not just old men saying these things, man. It's wise men.
Yeah. It's not old men with gray beards. It might be young man trying to get a beard right now. So, but no, man, again, it's just, dude, when I got baptized, it was around that. It was September 12th. It was September 12th, 2017. And when I went under that water, Travis and Steven always tell me that was probably one of the most special moments. And I'm like, I didn't feel nothing. And when I came out of the water, I felt like, wow, my conscience was clean. I was like, this was wrong. It's so I knew the difference between right and wrong, and it didn't dawn on me before. And so I can definitely relate to that, where it was a switch.
I mean, a lot of people say, to me it wasn't like this crazy feeling or nothing like that. It was just, I could see it in the way that I thought. I could see it in the way that I felt. I could see it
spiritual lens.
The spiritual lens. I could just see things different. And this is the crazy part. When all this was going on, Crystal had left me, and we were trying to kind of work through our relationship to try and work it out. And I remember telling her, I'm like, look, I understand if you never come back, because I have totally earned you never coming back. Yeah. But God's done something to me. And so you may want to just at least hang out on the edge over here and just kind of watch and see what's going on, because this is crazy. I mean, it was to me, like my mom said, it was so radical that it was like my family was like, we don't even know who you are anymore. You're so different. But it was like God's plan the whole time. It was like all the giftings that He had given me. I mean, let me ask you this question, and we'll kind of wrap it up with this. Yeah. Because I noticed my giftings, the enemy used them for wrong. And so for me, it was like I have a really good discernment. Like when I meet people, I can read them like a book.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's really a cool gift. And but I used it for all the wrong reasons when I was lost. Okay, I tried to take advantage of people. It didn't matter.
Yeah.
I would read them and I would take advantage of them. I knew where they were at and stuff like that. But what have you noticed yet? Because you're still really young. Have you noticed a gifting that God's given you for the Spirit?
Dude, that's a good question because I question myself about that all the time, and I pray about that all the time. Like, man, what is my gift? I know I'm supposed to speak into people's life, and I know I've been told that I encourage people like crazy. And like you said before, you were saved, you used it for the wrong reasons. Like when I was in high school, I used to have so many friends. I thought I was so cool, and I used to down people all the time, thinking I was better than them. Just like type of bullying, to be honest with you, just being a turd. So,
Yeah.
But I know, like, switch back to now I'm saved. I know I'm supposed to encourage people, and I know I'm supposed to love people. And at the end of the day, if I don't know my gift right now, I'm just gonna do what Jesus called me to do, is that's love people, no matter who they are, no matter what sex, no matter what political views, no matter what color of their skin, man. I'm just gonna love people, and that's where I'm at right now. Because I can't really answer that question honestly, knowing what my spiritual gift is. I feel like I'm supposed to like preach to people, but I'm still learning what I'm supposed to be doing. So yeah.
So I want to tell you this, man, and I hope you receive this, because I watch from a distance.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you and Travis and Steve, you are closer, man. But
man.
I'm kind of like watching you from a little bit more of a 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you this. I've been a senior pastor, and I understand the church, and I understand the value of the church, and I understand. But I'm gonna tell you something right now. Your life and the walk that you have is a more consistent, solid picture of what the church looks like than most buildings that people go to on Sunday. And I want you to receive that, because there's a lot of people that sit in church on Sunday that don't even have that spiritual lens, because they've never truly given their heart to the Lord. They think they have, but they've never gotten their hands off the steering wheel of their life and said, Jesus, have me. But at your age and your generation and the things that you and Taylor are doing and the way that you're living your life and the way that you have everything going, it speaks volumes like you don't even know, because your age, your generation, with all that you've got thrown at you right now on the web and all that kind of stuff, man, to have victory over that is it takes a supernatural power, dude, to give you victory in that area.
I'm telling you, man. And like you said, you're gonna wrap this up soon, but I said this on Wednesday when I was on stage, and I was just, once we start looking at the cross as a victory, your whole perspective will change. This battle's won, man. Yeah. Whatever anybody's struggling with is it's won. It's already beaten. It doesn't get the walk with Jesus isn't easy, but you know, and you got to trust and have faith that Jesus already finished it. It's a finished work. So
yeah, and that's the cool thing, man.
Yeah,
is that I'm going to watch Columbia play tonight, and I'm still on the winning team, even if things don't turn out the way I want tonight.
Exactly.
I'm still on the winning team, man.
Yes, sir.
And I always tell people this too, man. You know what? We're first round draft picks, baby.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? We might not be in the NFL, and we might not be making millions of dollars here, but I'm gonna tell you something.
That's right.
When we get to heaven, I promise you, I'm laying up some treasure, baby.
That's right.
If you want to come see something, come on over, man. Me and Pastor Travis are going to be neighbors, and we're going to have some mansions.
Dude.
You know what I'm saying? And I hope George, my mentor, I hope he's kind of close to me, because he's probably going to have like a whole ranch. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that joker. But anyway, man, I just want to tell you, man, how proud I am of you. I know Travis is. I know Steve is. And, dude, that's a good group of guys to surround yourself with. Me and Travis were talking yesterday about the 4 guys that dropped the man through the
he preached about that on Wednesday.
Well, let me tell you something, man. You're surrounding yourself with guys like that.
Yeah, man.
You know, you're surrounding yourself, and stay focused with that, man.
Definitely.
Don't get away from the what you know, your boys.
Yeah.
The guys that God's put in your life, man.
Definitely.
Because it's the people like that, when you look at who God places in your life, that tells you about your calling.
Yeah.
So just stay faithful.
Definitely, man.
Keep doing what you're doing, man. And I want you to know we love you. Me and my family, we love you. I know I'm still getting to know you.
Yeah.
But I love watching God work in your life.
I appreciate that,
and
man.
I'm going to tell you somebody that's on your team big time.
Mm-hmm.
Pastor Travis.
Yeah, man.
Every time I talk to him, man, it's when I mention your name, man, it's like, man, I'm so proud of that boy. I'm so proud of that boy. So
man, yeah, he's seen me when I was at my lowest, man. And Dylan Henson, I love you, bro. Steven, I love you, man. Pastor Travis, I love you. And Skipper, man.
Yeah.
I hope, man, I want to go camping with you.
Let's do it.
I want to go camping so
we'll
bad.
We'll play
dude.
the trip while we're here.
Let's do it.
All
Let's
right.
do it, man.
So, man, thanks for coming. We love you, man.
Love you guys.
Hey, you guys, it's your decision. It's your decision. You get to make a decision on what you do with your life. So we just want to encourage you. If you need to find out more about the ministry of FCA, just go to fca.org, fcaod.org, fcaod.org. And if you guys want to support the ministry, there's a link on there that you can click on. And we just want to tell you we love you. And if you want to see Justin do a little bit of transition at City Church, he gets up there and he gets it on every once in a while. So you guys come on by, take a look, take a see, listen to some great music. Steve Knox, not only is he a good man of God,
dude,
but
he's can sing. Steven Knox can sing. Yeah.
So love you guys. You have a great day.
Love
We'll
y'all.
see you later.
Thank you for listening to A Voice in the Wilderness podcast with Skipper Hare. You can stay connected with us and our family on our YouTube channel, Hare Days-Uncut. And don't forget to click the subscribe button. If you'd like more information or to support FCA Outdoors, go to fcaod.org.